Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. I'm Frank Wander, and I am not here with my co-host Terry Mays. Terry is a certified culture engineer who is not going to be able to drop in today. I'm the founder of PeopleProductive. We help companies use the time, talent, and energy of the people most effectively so that they do, in fact, create cultures that outperform in a measurable way. So let's talk about the needy personality, this hero personality. I do hope you've been tuning into the series. We've covered a whole different set of these unproductive personalities in the workplace. There are many, many of them. And this week, we're going to be talking about the hero personality. You may want to tune in next week. We're going to do the low EQ coworker. A lot of those we've run into over time. But the hero is a unique personality type that you occasionally run into in the workplace. I've only run into a few of them in my whole career. Terry did run into one. And, in general, these hero personalities, when you talk about them, people think about the hero personality as the person that does something so they can save the day. And in the real world, these tend to be people that set fires, firefighters. They'll be involved in setting a fire so they can be there and put it out. They're nurses. They're called angels of death, where they over-administer drugs and then, they're in there saving the person. Some of them are just sociopaths, psychopaths, but some of them just want to be the hero, right? Create a situation with a patient and then save the day. These things happen a lot, and they did research on the arsons, and they found that 75% of them said they were just there to get the rush out of solving it. But when you look in the workplace, these people do exist. I've run into a few. And, to me, the ones that I ran into were really people who were esteem seeking. They had an insatiable need for esteem. They wanted to be somebody. And I do recall one case early in the career where this person was the only one who knew this very complex software solution at the time. It was way back. It was CICS Eternals. And only one in the organization that had this unique skill set. They were doing some very complex coding and engineering. And problems kept occurring where this guy was the only one to save the day. And I remember going to the guy who ran the area and said, listen, this guy has to be creating this. We never had these issues. They're occurring all the time. He's the one doing it. You don't have anybody else who can look into it. So they got somebody else in there, got rid of the guy. And sure enough, it all stopped once he left. He really was creating this situation. Now, interestingly, this individual had a monetary incentive for doing it. He wanted to stay employed. He was getting a huge rate per day because he had a unique skill set. And, as a consultant, this is a way for him to actually stay employed. Terry was telling me about somebody that worked for them where they hired them. After a while, they started having problems. He was the only one who could fix them. Same type of situation. It was a system. And there the boss was smart enough to say, hey, this has not happened. I've had this area for quite a while. Something's going on here. This is different. These people think they're going to get away with it. But in fact, they don't, and people do figure it out, but they tend to work for people who kind of like these heroes sometimes, and they stick around and they do a lot of damage. I think these people have many reasons for doing it. Like I said, the one individual had a monetary incentive. Sometimes they get a lift out of, doing that. I guess they get a dopamine rush and they'll do it for that, almost like winning a bet or a gambler hitting it big. But I found that the esteem seekers were sometimes the worst because they would always butt in where they really had no business butting in. And, these are people who just don't know how to stay in position. They don't stay in their role. They want to be in the limelight. If something is going on, these are leaders in particular, and they can find a way to, stretch kind of their role or mandate so that they could suddenly be involved in this important situation. They butt in. And, I've seen one individual in particular at one job who would always butt in anytime there was an issue. He would twist what he was doing. And God, this person was really annoying to have around as, a peer in the workplace because he always got involved anytime there was a situation where he could, get in the limelight, talk about it, try to be the hero saving the day. And the one thing about these people with low esteem who do this, it's insatiable. They never get enough. It's always a problem. And this is not really a diagnosable disorder. It's not like that. They're not in the DSM where there's certain set of characteristics that define who they are, but they create a lot of anxiety and hostility in the workplace. Sometimes they'll be boasting about who they are, a little narcissistic in some ways. They're always talking up their abilities and how good they are, telling stories about great successes that they had. I've seen that go with it as well. They tend to think that they are kind of super productive over other people. And they're very arrogant and they don't really recognize their own limitations. And they've got this cloudy judgment. So some of them can be extremely dangerous. Like this esteem seeker caused a major issue one time in a data center. And it had to do with a power generator. And he caused a problem where there was an arc flash. Anyway, he really, really was a big issue. And so sometimes they could be dangerous. This individual that kept causing problems in one of our online systems, that was pretty serious. He could have done some real damage there with customers who were using the system because he would bring this thing down. And a real problem. They are out there. You've got to be aware of them. I think, the best way to deal with these people is to make absolutely certain that you don't have these single points of failure in the workplace, that you do have people who can handle these situations and skills. So you don't have somebody who really is working on a black box and nobody knows what they're doing. That's when people start to think they could take advantage of things. Or say, likewise, if somebody has a role that really isn't well defined, they can easily step out of boundaries into other areas and try to get their esteem that way. So you want a well-run workplace. You don't want single points of failure. You want roles and responsibilities that are clearly defined. I think that tends to keep these folks in a box. And, if you do see somebody that you're over-reliant on, you do run the risk that if that person is a esteem seeker, he's going to take on more and more stuff and eventually put you at risk. I've seen these heroes on projects where they, will volunteer for everything, say they could do it, and in fact, they can't. They're not that good. And then they end up creating a situation where, the project or program is a little bit threatened because they've taken on something that was critical or vital and they can't actually do it. And so they get outed and caught that way. These people have an impact on the mood of the team because they do step into other people's turf. They do try to grab the limelight. And I think that's a real problem. I'm going to share a quick video for you here from The Incredibles. And I think this is pretty interesting. So I'm going to, let me just do a share screen here. I'm going to share a Chrome tab. Let's go in here and take a look at this. This is super.
Oh, come on! You gotta admit this is cool! Just like a movie! The robot will emerge dramatically, do some damage, throw some screaming people, and just when all hope is lost, Syndrome will save the day! I'll be a bigger hero than you ever were.
You mean you killed off real heroes so that you could pretend to be one?
Oh, I'm real. Real enough to defeat you! And I did it without your precious gifts, your oh-so-special powers. I'll give them heroics. I'll give them the most spectacular heroics anyone's ever seen! And when I'm old and I've had my fun, I'll sell my inventions so that everyone can be superheroes. Everyone can be super. And when everyone's super, no one will be.
So, super interesting. I mean, I think that captures it. This is somebody who wants to be much bigger than they really are. They exist in different walks of life, and they do exist in the workplace. And, as a leader in particular, you should be aware that these personality types are out there. They're there. They could do a lot of damage. You want to make sure that you have them in a constrained space. You don't want to be full prey to them because, they are a single point of failure. They have knowledge no one else has. I know you can't always have situations where everything is backed up. It could be very costly to have, redundant skills in every area, especially in newer technologies or things that are really in demand. But just be aware of this. And especially when you see somebody who is taking advantage of a situation, or there are a lot of times where they are the hero or wanting to be the hero, you get a sense that this is who you're dealing with. And they're going to affect your culture. They're going to affect the productivity of the team. They're going to create issues ultimately. And just be on guard that these folks really, really do exist. It is a real phenomenon. Hey, Marcel, why don't we bring up the takeaways? Perfect. So key takeaways. Let's take a look at this. Okay. So, these people, they have this huge esteem need. They have an insatiable need to save the day. I think some of them do get a dopamine rush about it, and that could be the, mechanism that's driving them to do this. They have that excessive need for recognition and attention, especially for their work, clothes, lifestyle. They could be bigger than life, these people. And certainly the one leader I'm thinking about who had this huge esteem need that butted in everywhere, always was talking up who they were. They had an exaggerated sense of who they were and how good they were at what they did. And, they were famous in their own eyes as having been a hero in different situations. And none of it was really true. I'm sure they did a good job at certain points, but no way were any of these people I met ever heroes. They're actually very destructive. So you'll see key takeaway. Hero syndrome is a phenomenon that affects people who seek heroism or recognition, usually by creating a desperate situation which they can resolve. And that's absolutely the case. They don't always have to, like in the real world, create a desperate situation. They could just butt in when it's not desperate, but they're going to be able to, get some esteem out of it, accomplish something, be in the limelight a little because management is watching the situation. So they jump in. And I think, the tips are the ones we've been talking about. Don't create situations where you're over dependent on one person. Don't allow blurry lines and roles and responsibility. Define boundaries to keep the hero in check. All of that is really important. And, Peter Drucker's quote here, the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence. It is to act with yesterday's logic. And, these people, they're acting on their own needs from the past. And your move as a hero disrupting your workplace, set situation and take action. Be aware that these folks really, really do exist. They're out there. And there are not many of them, thank God. But this is one of the other people unproductive personality types. So next week, we're going to move on, and we're actually going to talk about the low EQ coworker, foot in the mouth, they're real trouble. They don't have to be at work, actually, because you run into these people in life, but these people are employed. You run into them in the workplace, and they do create real issues, and they need to be coached. Sometimes they need to be coached out of the place. They certainly should never be in a leadership position. That's a real problem. Anyway, we're here live every week, 3:00 Eastern time. We hope you could join us. It's a great series. If you haven't seen the prior episodes in the series or other series like we did on belonging in the workplace and how to create an incredibly deep sense of that, you should go back and look at the prior episodes. These are incredibly valuable. If you want to lead in the new world of work where people are the most important tool in every workplace, you need to build human skills. You should really be aware that these individuals there, all these different personality types, how do you deal with them? What do you do about it? I think today's very good in terms of those tactics for dealing with these people and actually avoiding a situation where a hero can emerge in your environment that you don't want there. At any rate, look, thanks for tuning in. We try to keep these short and sweet to the point. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Take care.